It was an experiment. I'd experimented and suddenly I figured it out. I'm like, oh, that makes sense why that was successful. But then from there, again, through talking with my friend who turned partner, we launched a membership. Multiple memberships came out of that. That little guide turned into a larger guide that I sold on a place called How Would You Do This? If this was your agency, Mr. AI, what would you do in my shoes? And like I said, and so it's already manifested in a way, like I said, internally, but I also use it probably almost daily for clients. Now, my clients may not even know this, right? But we're able to do things faster or solve problems quicker. Whether that's a website issue, some conflict in a website, something we're troubleshooting, a bug we're trying to fix, or, we're able to solve that more efficiently and quicker because we're leveraging AI. I have team members that it's one of the strangest things out of all this. But once in a while, I'll have a team member like send me a ChatGPT chat, right? They'll send me a copy of it or copy and paste it or whatever. And this is what ChatGPT said about this. They're using it, right? They're actually, and it doesn't bother me one bit. Great. I encourage my team to use it because if it can help them solve problems quicker, that's awesome. Hi, I'm Matt Levenhagen, founder of Unified Web Design, Unified Plugins, and your host of the Builders Podcast. Here on the Builders, our goal is to uncover the first principles behind building businesses, products, and services. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you're listening. And if you find value in our content, a like, share, or review is always appreciated. Let's dive in and explore the roots of innovation and progress together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, it is another solo episode. Don't worry, we have guests coming soon. I'm lining them up right now. It's actually interesting. This is the second solo in a row. That doesn't happen too often. It's probably been over a year since that happened. And it's been a crazy year. But I don't know if that's the excuse. It just happens sometimes where when the well dries up, when I don't have somebody lined up, I usually do a solo to fill that gap. And I've been doing this for 4.5 years, so that's pretty much the way it's been. Or I'll throw a solo in every 5 to 6 weeks if I do have it stacked up. But we usually only stack up maybe at most 5, 6, 7 at a time, where I'll have them lined up like that, But once in a while, if we're getting busy or we just, sometimes it just happens where suddenly it's like, okay, I didn't have anybody for next week. So I don't have anybody on the schedule. So I'll just throw myself in there. But it'll still be really, really good. This is going to be great content. I promise. I promise this is, well, at least it's something that I think is really important for me as I'm a builder too. And so it fits right in there with the building thing. Anyway, but we do have guests. I'm doing a lot of intro calls now. So what'll happen when that happens is I'm my VA, and I'll see her suddenly realize it too. We probably don't even have to talk about it at this point because she's been helping me for all those 4.5 years. But I'll start seeing new people showing up on my calendar, a lot of intro calls. So, but that's good. But we don't have to be here. We normally wouldn't be here because we have numerous sources where we can get guests, and we got referrals. People are constantly sending us referrals, ideas for our podcast. So some comes out of that. Some comes out of Podmatch we belong to. It's a community of people that are looking for guests and vice versa, guests that are looking for spots. And so we have a wide range of ways. Sometimes it's somebody I know sends somebody and recommends them. Sometimes it's an agency out there. There's agencies that headhunt or find podcasts for people to be on. I have some really good ones coming up, including a very interesting one. Somebody I actually worked for many years ago, who's really, really well known in webinar circles. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Anyway, so that's that. But what we're going to talk about today is really how to build a business via the progression through experimentation, taking action. Well, those two things. You gotta. Well, if you're experimenting, you're taking action. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So, but it's a continuous thing though, and it's a way that over the many years that I've built various businesses and launched various products. Hang on one second, Alexa, shut down your display, please. I had to do that because I got this. I got the Echo Show, and it's great. I love it, but it's pretty distracting because it's right next to my laptop here. Anyway, so as I was saying, over the years I've done a lot of different things, and the next thing is always found through experimentation. And so I want to dive into that. I'm going to give you a little context, a little history, and some of the things I've done. And then I want to bring it to today and what I'm working on right now and what the next evolution of Matt and his business is going to be. And it might include a little bit of AI. It might include some surprise things. Yeah, hopefully it'll be a good one. So yeah, let's dive in. First of all, let's kind of rewind a bit, where I've seen this play out in my life and my businesses over time. If we go way back to let's just go back to the early 2000s. I don't want to go into the 90s. I'm just like feeling too old if I'm talking 90s. Well, I did some things in the 90s. I did a lot of experimenting in the 90s. I went from trying to be an artist to, like actually painting on canvas and selling, commissioning work and doing some shows and trying to be an artist, trying to be a Picasso. Maybe not with the negative stuff that Picasso brings, but, the artwork, the creativity of it, devoting a life. That's why I love Picasso, because I always admired artists like that who just knew who they were. He was just Picasso his whole life until I think he died in his early 90s. And, but he was always Picasso. He was always an artist. He always knew what the next thing was. He was just experimenting on canvas, right? So I always loved that, but I digress. And then I experimented. I went back to, college for business. And then I got into the insurance business and experimented with that. But it was the early 2000s where I did a lot of experimentation. I sort of didn't get out of the insurance business. I was really in the insurance business for a number of years through the 2000s. I would even babysit my friends, a couple of them, their insurance agencies while they go on vacation. I would just, I was that guy. I was kind of doing that, but then I got into contracting. I had Matt's Painting and Repair, and then I experimented because I was getting all these different projects, and suddenly I realized we're doing some remodeling, and I'm like, oh, MPR remodeling, let's try that. And Matt's Painting and Repair, MPR, MPR remodeling, and then I got into, then I was in insurance. I was experimenting always. I was selling life insurance for some time, mortgage insurance, and a variety of things there. And then I launched a website in 2003 for my insurance. And then I started experimenting with online stuff. But those couple of years from 2003 to 2005, I was experimenting like crazy. And what I mean by experiment, I was just trying all kinds of things. I knew I saw people making money online, right? and I'm a nerd, so I could see myself just sitting at the computer and that's what I actually ended up doing. I mean, this is 20 years later, 20 plus years later, and I'm still sitting at this computer in the same room. I'm literally in the same room that I was uh, back in 2003 when I built that website, except I was in that corner over there. And that's, yeah, I'm pretty consistent that way. But I was trying all kinds of different things. So I tried, I belonged to some forums back then, a bunch of forums, communities, from SEO communities, search communities, because I was getting into SEO and search, pay-per-click communities, both public and private. So I was doing a lot of pay-per-click advertising, affiliate marketing, and but I was also like trying to sell resale products and private label, and I did a lot in that space. And but one of the other things I was really experimenting with, the biggest thing that probably became one of my bigger successes back then, I was experimenting with writing what we'd call special reports, or just reports, and they were just like mini ebooks, right? And figured out how to deliver those and how to sell those. And I had written a bunch, and I, like I said, I belonged to these different communities. There was different marketplaces and stuff back in the day. Um, and I suppose there's probably things like that still exist, but I'm out of that kind of world. Um, but none really took off. I wrote books on a variety of things, from motivation to just how to, how I was, I don't know, about business. And but then there was this community I belonged to. It was called AdWords Mentor. So AdWords was Google's ad platform, and I was really, really heavy into that. I mean, like big time, and but in an affiliate marketing realm. So I was promoting affiliate programs through AdWords PPC, and so I had kind of figured out these kind of methods to do that, and somebody talked me into, because I would post my successes in these communities, and one gentleman pulled me aside virtually, and he's like, you share all this information, you should just package it up and put it in a report. And so I did. Now, I had already written a bunch of reports, and maybe I would get a few sales, like a few, like literally like a few, two or three, maybe more, but it's usually just people that knew me, friends. But then this special report, I nailed it, because number one, it was very contextual to the community that I sold it in. And this little community, a little private community, actually, they launched this little marketplace in there where we could sell our virtual goods. And I did this, and I still remember it. I still visualized the whole thing happening. And because it was just so mind boggling. And I sold, like, I think I sold at least 100, 150 of these reports in that community. And I don't, it wasn't a huge community. I think there's probably 1,000+ people in there, but not everyone was active, whatever, or went to that marketplace. But I'd gotten to know a lot of these people over time. And I mean, we were in there all the time because this was like our thing. Like literally every day, everybody's talking shop, talking about pay-per-click and affiliate marketing. And anyway, so I sold it there, and then I took that to another marketplace. So in the first week, I sold 300+ copies. That got my attention. It was an experiment. I'd experimented, and suddenly I figured it out. I'm like, oh, that makes sense why that was successful. But then from there, again, through talking with my friend who turned partner, we launched a membership. Multiple memberships came out of that. That little guide turned into a larger guide that I sold on a place called ClickBank. Had an affiliate program. People were selling my guide as affiliates. And then that guide grew in detail. spun off those memberships and coaching programs, and it just became a thing. That was in the late 2000s. That's probably from 2005 until about 2010, 11. That was my life. That was everything. Everything's revolved around that. But all of that happened through experimentation, through trying different things. The resale products, I still did. I actually had some limited success with private label. I remember I had a private label when it was a new thing. Exit pop-ups were a new thing. And I got the private label rights to a script that did that and sold that. And then lucked out because an affiliate started. I don't even know if they were affiliate, but they were just recommending my script. I started getting all these sales, hundreds of sales. I'm like, what is going on? And but I was really good at tracking and analytics, and I tracked it back to who it was. I had a lot of fun back in those days. It was all about experimenting, and it doesn't matter if it was a physical business offline, like, services business, like contracting or insurance, or even in insurance, you're experimenting with lead programs and different systems. And it's just like anything else. There's a ton of different programs out there, ways you can sell, in different companies that sell things. And you're always experimenting. I was always like, okay, now I'm going to sell life insurance. Oh, can I sell health insurance? Oh, if I hook up with this broker over here, I can sell all, this 50 different companies' policies. And it was always experimenting, but it was always building on what you find that success. You really, zero in on that success, and you double, triple down on it and get that going. And then you build it, but then you're going to have to get, like, what's the next thing? You can kind of grow certain things, but some things just grow to a certain point, and then you're going to have to figure out, well, how can you sell more of that thing, or how can you snap on other services, add-ons, right? Cross sells, upsells, whatever you're going to do. But that's for almost any business, right? And so I went through all of that, and then in 2012, I pivoted and started focusing in on web design and development. And because it's a whole story, but that's what I love to do. And I thought, let me try this. Let me try doing this for other people. I've been doing it for myself for years. And started as a freelancer, ended up, again, experimenting. Upwork. It wasn't Upwork. It was Elance. It's been a while. I think it was called Elance. They merged into Upwork, I think. I think that's how that happened. But I created a really good presence there, and that's where I was getting most of my business, and then I was getting referrals, and I was getting, I experimented my way through that. Like, I'm going to try, like, I've been doing stuff with WordPress all this time. Let me try that. Let me try this other thing. And then I got a job doing that. I actually contracted with somebody for a year and then worked for them for 3 years as their web developer. Built a team there, did all that, and learned my craft even more. And there it was just about learning. But there we were experimenting as well. We were experimenting, trying to build WordPress themes and sell them. And the reason why I got the job is because the first year I was trying to help, like, the founders of this company. They had this vision to sell themes and maybe build. I don't know if they thought about the marketplace at that time, but it grew into that. But the reason why we continued on that path was because we were able to sell thousands of these themes to their list. And so there was definitely interest, and they were very niche themes, and it was a concept that worked for a few years. And then my agency came along. When I left there, they got out of the WordPress business eventually, and I left there, and then I started the experimenting with the agency. The agency kind of the same way. I started with an idea, And at first I just took whatever I could take, to make money and to feel my way through it. And then eventually I saw something working and I zeroed in on that. I tried to scale that up. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And here I am today. I got a team building and doing specific things. We're doing maintenance, design, development, the whole 9 yards. And that's how things evolved. But all through that, all these years, from me being that artist to all the way till now, it was always an experimentation. And sometimes businesses don't last forever. Or you decide, or it can be a personal thing or it can be a market thing. The reason why I got out of all that internet marketing, affiliate marketing stuff is because the landscape changed dramatically in those years I was doing it. Like I came in with like the Wild Wild West days, right? It was anything went, but a lot evolved, a lot changed. And so eventually I was fighting things I didn't want to fight anymore and got out of that. But it's the same way with a lot of businesses that can happen. Markets change. And just like we're going to talk about today, the landscape's changing right now for me pretty dramatically. So I have to make decisions. I have to look. There can be time frames when you're in a business like an agency where the work's there and you're just focused on the work. You're focused on building the team, maintaining the team, delivering the work, and it almost can become easy sometimes, too easy. But sometimes you have to because you get really busy, right? You have a big contract or you have something where it's like, oh man, I need to focus on this. That other stuff is going to have to wait, and you don't have to think about the future. You don't have to, because that's right now. Everything's right now. And the last number of years has kind of been that way up until probably last year. There was a couple of years there where it was just growth. It was like one contract after another, solid contracts in place that were just, monthly retainers. Everything was going amazing. And, but that's not going to last necessarily forever. You always got to, it's not like we don't do marketing. Obviously we do content. I got the podcast. There's reasons I do those things. Right. But things shifts, things change. And just like I found my way to what we do today, I have to think about what that next thing is. What is that next opportunity? Can I build out and grow what I'm doing now? That's probably going to be how it plays out. It's going to be some outgrowth of what we're doing now. It's not like it's not like the old days many years ago, when I went from art to being an insurance agent. Being an artist to insurance agent, that's pretty dramatic. To being a contractor, that's pretty dramatic. To being an internet guy, that's pretty dramatic. I had some really big changes. and that's kind of okay when you're young. I was, like I'm 54 now. So, you're talking my late 20s, 30s, I was doing this stuff, and you can take more risk and make more dramatic changes when you're younger without causing too much harm. But today, I'm doing what I love to do, and there's a lot of depth to it. So there's different ways I could go and still be happy doing what I'm doing now. I think I just said this on a recent episode where it's like, if I would quit the agency, I wouldn't be pivoting to anything else, like in terms of the craft. I would still be doing web development and design. I know I would be in some way, shape, or form. I'd be doing some kind of tech thing, right? At least tech. Maybe I'd be getting into AI. Maybe I'd be doing something like that. But it would be something in that. Like I wouldn't be pivoting to something completely different, at this point. I've landed. Excuse the interruption, but I'd like to take a quick moment to thank the sponsors of the Builders Podcast, Unified Web Design and Unified Plugins. At Unified Web Design, we specialize in crafting custom websites and providing comprehensive design and development solutions to help businesses build a strong online presence. Unified Plugins offers a suite of WordPress tools designed to help you create beautiful websites, enhance functionality, and drive conversions. Explore how these services can elevate your digital projects by visiting unifiedwebdesign.com and unifiedplugins.com. Now back to our program. But yeah, so that's kind of the setup. Like that's kind of overarching, like everything that I've done to experiment and find my way to where I am today. Now this can happen on also like progression happens through both experimentation and the development of just building out your internal mechanisms to get the word out. In other words, marketing, sales, and your websites and all that stuff. I'm always pushing my websites, my own internal websites. So we've landed on 4 websites. We've had these 4 websites now for a number of years. And we got mattlevenhagen.com, which is obviously kind of my personal brand website and my hub. But I talk about teams and outsourcing and other things there. And then I have, the builders, obviously, .fm. And then I have Unified Plugins, which is where we sell our plugins, our WordPress products. And then we have unifiedwebdesign.com, obviously, which is our main thing. But all the 4 of those, it would be really interesting to kind of map out the progression of all of them. But all those websites have progressed over time. Not only that, I started with Unified Web Design, and then there was that outgrowth, and then that outgrowth, and that outgrowth, but they all work together. I was just talking to somebody, a friend, who's going to be in a podcast soon again. He hasn't been on since like the early days. Anyway, we were talking, and he was very interested to hear that, like how all my things tie together, and they do. They all feed into each other in some way. They all complement each other. They all work together. But I landed on those 4. But each one of those has progressed in terms of design and development, and I'm always looking what's the next thing that I can do to improve this website. One of the things I did this weekend, this is getting a little bit technical, but there was 2 of my sites that used, I don't know if you ever heard of a CDN, but it's basically a content delivery network, and there's a bunch of them out there, and basically it helps with the delivery of all the assets, images, and everything on your websites, and can be all kinds of things, whatever files. And it makes it faster because it serves those things locally. So it could be somebody on the other side of the world. It's going to find it's going to actually make the delivery of your website faster for that person because it's looking towards something more locally to serve those things. And so I've always used CloudFront and S3, Amazon's infrastructure, AWS, and it's not the easiest thing to set up, but I only use it because we had a website for a while called Hexeter, and that's where we sold WordPress themes. It's closed down now, but we used that there, and then I sort of started using it on I think mattlevenhagen.com and UWD, and but I always wanted to add it to my other 2 sites, and we just never got to it, and so I spent some time the last few days, many hours, doing that, integrating that into those sites, and then actually make some improvements along the way as well as how they're delivered, some security tweaks, and but that's like something that's been on my mind for like a year or 2, and maybe since I even launched those websites. I just never got to it, but now I know that's like this progression. Like now I did that. Now that's all set. What's the next thing we're going to do with these websites? Hopefully nothing for a while. Another thing I just recently did, I think I mentioned this also in my last episode, is that we added animations and subtle animations throughout just to make it a little flashier on all the websites. But that was a step in a direction, and now the next, this will probably sit. I usually do this like once or twice a year. I'll update my own websites and do some kind of thing in between things, or if we got some time. Um, and, maybe the next time is like focusing in on the content, or adding more case studies or doing, but also the websites themselves have to progress. They have to stay with the times. And so those are like so many things that, that are always happening. It's the same way with, businesses, the same way with your websites. I don't think he watches this. I was just on a website. I was just on a website. Somebody I know, um, and he's in tech. But some of these tech guys, they are not really good on the design side, and they don't. They're probably successful just from their network. He's a very good networking person. That's how I know him, through a network of techie people. And but I visited his website and I got it from like his email. He sent the email and I'm like, oh, okay, let me check out his website. I've never looked at his website. Like from 1995. It's fine. Like I said, he's successful. He's probably doing very well. He probably doesn't care. But for me, I always felt and I always feel that your website is an extension of your business and how people perceive you, right, as a brand and everything. And so I'm always tweaking. Every year I'm changing something, whether it's design related or we just refreshed the entire design of Unified Plugins. I'm always doing things like that. And I'll choose a website or I'll just come up with an idea or a new thing we're doing. And like the podcast became a big thing for us. And there's different changes related to that. There's all this stuff is, we're constantly tweaking. Now we might focus on speed and other things like that. There's always this progression, always this taking action in some direction, always incrementally improving things. And it's small little, sometimes it's not big changes, like those animations and that round of animations to add animations. We'd done it, off and on over the years, but usually we'd do some little animation and it would disappear, be overwritten by something or whatever. But this was like really intentional. Like I really want every single one of our websites, and that initiative plus the refresh and Unified Plugins took like a week and a half. I threw a couple devs at it, but now it's like, and so it wasn't like we like sat down and planned this for 3 months to 6 months and then took a year to do it. Now there's this little saying called money loves speed. I try to live by that as much as possible. Speed. Don't overthink it. Just do it. Take action. I might have been thinking about those things though for a while. Sometimes it's just, I'm walking the dog or taking a shower or just sitting, doing something. And I'm like, I really should. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll do that someday. And then that someday comes. The opportunity comes. So, but those are things that, it's kind of just this like mentality, this mindset, of continuous improvement and building on what you have and progressing forward. It's that way with tools, with the tech you have, with your processes, with everything in your business. There's always this kind of, this experimentation. And so as time goes on, I just like kind of laid out a glimpse of some of the stuff that I've done over time and built. And I see this also like within the clients that I have and the partners I have, right? I see agencies. I have a very unique position because I can see how like our partners agencies and how they develop, how their internal mechanisms develop over time. I've seen businesses develop over time. I have a client that I've had for 4+ years, and we've had a contract with him for as long. to see him progress, him and his partner. They have multiple websites at this point, but to see them progress. I know where they were when we first came upon them. They were a big business. They were, in the millions, probably annual revenue, but they were, I wouldn't say basic in the beginning, but things were pretty straightforward. But to see them, how they added another product or how they developed their team and then started working with other agencies and we're always there. We're kind of, we maintain their websites and work with these other agencies to help them implement things and try to, I'm in charge of making sure nothing breaks. All these other entities are coming in trying to break my, I would say, I was going to say break my shit, but I kind of feel like it is my shit at this point. Sorry for the language, but it is like this client is, he relies on me to make sure, that nothing happens. And I've talked about that in the past, but it's even that though, like I see somebody that's taking action. They're not even, and I'm part of conversations and things where it's like, I see, they're planning, then they just got a patent on this new product. There's a whole nother, I know there's a whole nother product there that they plan on launching eventually that obviously we'll be involved in because we'll probably build the website. But I think they've learned so much though. I know they're going to do it way differently than they would have done it 2 years ago. But to see that they're thinking ahead, they're thinking about what that next thing is, but they're not losing sight of what they have now. They got to continue to make that work. And that's the same way with that, the same way with partners, the agencies. I have an agency I've been working with since almost the beginning of my agency, probably since the beginning. And I've seen him try to build out this, I've helped him with different clients over time. We've built websites for him. We've helped maintain some things. And I've seen them go through this kind of progression. And then suddenly I didn't hear from him for a while. And suddenly I have a conversation with him about, I'm still helping with some of those clients, but suddenly he tells me, hey, they went in this completely different direction because they were experimenting and they figured out this other thing they can be much more successful at because of XYZ. And now I'm actually talking about them about that thing for different reasons. But anyway, so seeing somebody evolve like that, and this is an action taker though. You can tell it's somebody that's not just going to give up and go work at, work in retail or something. Just give up. Not that there's anything wrong with retail. I've done it. There's a time and place in one's life to do those type of things. But that's, it happens in every single, the businesses that do well are the businesses that are able to evolve and grow and change over time. So one of the other, so the kind of the next thing I want to talk about here is, and this is where I want to land, is giving you kind of a glimpse of how I'm thinking about things right now in my business, opportunities I see, and things I'm working on, and why that is. Now I've seen, like I said, we had a couple of years where we were doing very well in terms of, things were kind of on autopilot for a while. We had some really good contracts, teams growing, we're on autopilot. But this last year slapped us down a little bit for a wide range of reasons. And there was something happened this year where we lost a contract to AI. AI replaced us. Literally. I have a literal experience with this. And it hasn't affected all our contracts. But this particular one was a type of work that I had a dedicated resource doing for 4+ years. And I got a phone call that started with a conversation around AI and how we're using AI and how they're using AI and how excited they are about AI. And then about 20 minutes in, he's like, okay, well, this is why I really, let's, we should probably talk about why I really called you. And that was the end of that contract. And he's a good friend, no hard feelings, it's business. But, and I get it. I mean, the case was right there in front of me. And I knew, obviously all of us are concerned about AI is going to take our jobs and this and that and the other thing. And we all kind of have figured out at this point, that's not really going to, we're just going to evolve, right? It's going to help us do more. There may be cases like I just said where we do lose something, but maybe that's opening up an opportunity for something else. I don't know. But I have to think about it I haven't really, I use AI internally every day, every single day, numerous times, probably every hour. I have Chat GPT open, or I'm using AI in some system that I'm using, right? So I use it a lot, from strategy, brainstorming, to writing content, to helping me on the tech side, and that was heavily what I talked about in the last episode. I talked about how I'm using Claude AI to in my editors to do coding and stuff that I would have had to have team members, saving me tons of time. Something I can do in an afternoon that might have taken me a week or two to accomplish before. And so I'm using it a lot internally. But I also have to think about how that affects what we're doing for services and products and what we're doing, out in the world. So, and I've thought about this obviously over time, and I've had conversations with AI about it. Like, what are we going to do? How would you do this? If this was your agency, Mr. AI, what would you do in my shoes? And, like I said, and so it's already manifested in a way, like I said, internally, but I also use it probably almost daily for clients. Now, my clients may not even know this, right? But we're able to do things faster or solve problems quicker, whether that's a website issue, some conflict in a website, something we're troubleshooting, a bug we're trying to fix, or, we're able to solve that more efficiently and quicker because we're leveraging AI. I have team members that, it's one of the strangest things out of all this. But once in a while, I'll have a team member send me a Chat GPT chat, right? They'll send me a copy of it, or copy and paste it, or whatever. And this is what Chat GPT said about this. They're using it, right? They're actually, and it doesn't bother me one bit. Great. I encourage my team to use it, because if it can help them solve problems quicker, that's awesome. Right. And that adds huge value for our clients. And like I said, this is a behind the scenes thing that's just happening. It's not something I'm promoting. It's not something, it's just, number one, it's helping me do, build my business better, but it's also in the day-to-day stuff, fixing things and helping my team, and writing code, and reviewing code, and all the stuff that happens along in my business. But it's also on the marketing side, right? Like I said, we create content. I've used AI for a couple of years. It had been probably a couple of years at this point. Probably right out of the gates, I was using AI to help me with just the podcast and creating the content for the podcast. So the descriptions and the bullets and all that stuff, I don't even care if you know it's AI. Just as long as it tells you what the episode's about. That doesn't need to be anything fancy. I don't, but I use different tools for that. So I'm using it. So for you, right, I used AI a little bit to create the bullets, what I'm going to talk about today. I'm not doing a good job of following those bullets, but I'm terrible at that. When I do podcasts, even solo podcasts, I'm kind of I just lock in and just talk. I have a little bit of a bullet point list, though, I'm supposed to be looking at. But, so I'm using it even in the stuff I'm doing right here. Right for that stuff. So that's behind the scenes stuff. But I see the next evolution of this in a couple different ways. So ultimately, there's going to be an outgrowth of AI. I've talked about AI over time, but I don't think I talk about it as much as some others do. And some people they create a lot of content around AI. I've obviously had guests, and we talk about AI all the time, right? And how it's affecting whatever thing they're doing. But in my business, I don't know that you can even go to any of my websites besides the builders and find an article or find any content or services or products related to AI. But that's about to change. So I feel like it started kind of this on the ground level, the foundation internally, and then sort of then helping out with the services, and it actually helps with our products too, right? The episode I just had, I was talking about how I was using Claude. I was using that for a plugin, a WordPress plugin that we're going to be launching, where I had a developer spend a couple $100 hours building it, and then I'm using AI to do the final fine tuning. So I'm using it for that, right? So, but it's still not a feature, right? I'm using it to deliver things, to be more efficient, and it's still not a feature of what we do, whether it's a product or service. But what I plan on doing is multiple. It's probably going to happen, I imagine, for the rest of this year. This is what I hope to happen. Things can change. I could get a large contract and be completely distracted if something happens. But what I hope to do is start talking about AI more. But I'm going to talk about it in the context of also teams. And, I think if you look at matt11hagen.com, where I have the blog, I probably could see myself building content around AI and working with AI and teams. But maybe AI in general. I'm actually talking to somebody right now, a friend that he's kind of become, he's kind of a life coach, but it's around like sales and improving sales. And I'm actually having a whiteboard session with him next week. And he's going to help me kind of map out how I could introduce consulting into what I do. I've done some coaching and stuff over way in the past when I was doing the internet marketing stuff, but I don't know. You would have to know what I do, but in detail. But this past year, I created a guide about how to talks about the 4 pillars of having building strategic partnerships and doing outsourcing in a better way, how to make that successful. And the whole idea there was that's the next step to be doing some consulting. So I've had this idea to do consulting / coaching. And I'm at a stage where I could do that. It's kind of been sort of on hold. But I was talking to him the other day, and he's like, let's have a session and let's see how we can figure out how to do that and how to steer your content in that direction. So that's one thing I'm doing. So that's like the next thing. It's going to be just like launching that guide that, that was an experiment. Now I'll probably start experimenting in terms of, let's throw it out there. Hey, you want to do some, you want me to help you with your business in terms of, a tech guy coming in and looking at what you're doing and somebody that has experience over the years doing all the things I do and how I build teams, international teams, and how that can help you, but how you can also use AI in your business. I could see doing that, right? So that's one thing, but also on the services side, what I already see us doing, is helping in people integrate. We already do a lot of back end stuff. We're pretty well known for that, right? The technical hard problems and stuff, but I could definitely see us, bringing that to the forefront in our copy, like unified web design, even some dedicated content around it, and how we can help with integrations with AI and other ways we can help in that department, and or just highlighting what we do in that realm, and to start attracting, kind of teeing us up for this evolution that we're experiencing. How we are going to fit into that. Um, Regardless if there's AI out there, the way I see some of the stuff that we do, like we're not going away anytime soon, because regardless if there's AI helping a client or a partner, they still have infrastructure. They still have to integrate these things, right? And they still need somebody in the tech side to help them with that, or to, still design and think about things, pull the strings together. So there's that. And then from the plugins perspective, so I've actually strategically been building out a specific bundle of plugins, and I have kind of a next evolution of that. So now I don't see us building any more types of plugins at the moment. What I'm going to start doing is actually treating an AI treatment of sorts. So, and I've been thinking about this for a long time in the last year, 2 years with the whole AI revolution. I'm like, I'm always thinking about how can I, leverage AI or build something using AI. And we're going to just start introducing features that either are compatible with AI systems or have some kind of AI feature, whether that could be generating some kind of content. It could be a chatbot thing. There's ideas there. So across the board, I think the only thing that won't be affected is this podcast. Although I don't know, I'm not going to replace myself with an AI version of me yet. But you never know. It's getting pretty good. You might not even, maybe I am AI. So it's always though, so back to the original theme of this episode, where, progression, building a business, progression through experimentation and taking action. There's never this sitting still. Like I said, things get on hold. Sometimes you have to really focus in on something. Like I said, that big contract comes along, that big initiative, and that's what you're going to focus on. But once you come out of that, or something might grow out of that particular thing. But it's always like, what's that next thing? And I think, the people that I see being the most successful out there are the people that have that kind of energy underlying everything. It's always trying new things. I see him doing this, doing that. I mean, maybe I see him doing that for a while. In fact, the person I'm whiteboarding with, that he's doing this coaching or consulting now. I saw him, I've been following him for years. I saw him go from he was doing YouTube because he's got like a media background, and but how he evolved from that to doing this other completely different thing, and partnered with somebody and they have a very unique flavor around it, strategy around it. That all happened through experimentation and just taking action. Not giving up, learning the lessons along the way, and you're always trying different things, but not everything is going to work. There's a lot of things in my agency that I tried for a little while and it didn't work, and so I either pulled it out, stopped doing it, or something else took its place. That's how I got replaced at that company I worked for a number of years. I know that's how it happened. They had a number of things going. This thing over here is making them millions of dollars, and they have some great things happening there, and it's working, right? They're making money, and they see how they're going to scale it, and it's resonating with their market. But the things we were doing over here weren't so much yet. But they decided, maybe they didn't see how they were going to take this anymore. Maybe at first they did, and maybe, but this other thing, they decided to go in this other direction. And so that's why Hey, if that one ever would have happened, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I wouldn't be. There's no way. I wouldn't have unified web design. The builders would never have existed. Unified plugins would never existed. I don't know what I'd be doing, but I wouldn't be doing this. But I'm hopeful that you're thankful for that, and that you're enjoying my content, and you enjoyed this session today with me. I know I think it's structured, but the idea here was to kind of just share kind of my story with you and how I've approached businesses over the years. I haven't built the $1 billion business yet, but I built a lot of businesses. Some have been more successful than others, and some have lasted longer than others. Actually, Unified, my whole Unified brand is this is probably, is it the longest? I mean, I guess I'd have to say insurance lasted pretty long. That was almost a decade. Yeah. It's matching that though. Doing pretty good. But I'm in, like I said, the framework's there to evolve though. So look for, if you are following me on social media, you just kind of follow what we do a little bit, maybe loosely. You might see me talking more about AI, but also but our own unique flavor of that. Like I said, it's something that is kind of interesting if you think about how it evolved for us. Like I said, using it internally and then using it for client stuff, but kind of behind the scenes. But now I feel like we're at a point where we can start, talking about it to the world, and maybe that is how we progress and how we survive this whole tsunami. Is get to the high ground, get to the AI, and start speaking to it, start offering services that speak to it, and offering products that leverage it. So anyway, hope you found this interesting. I hope some insight here, something got you thinking. Hopefully the goal is that it motivates you. That if you're feeling stagnant, if you're sitting there right now, you don't know what that next thing is, or maybe you're just, I don't know, maybe you're doing all right, but you're just doing all right. What is that next thing you can think about experimenting with? Trying something new. It doesn't have to be something that has to happen, take a year to plan. Maybe you just a small experiment. Just throw the idea out there. Sometimes just throwing the ideas out there. And just always trying, and you never know. You see what the reaction is. And it only takes one out of, it might take 10, 20 experiments to get that one thing that does all right. Or maybe it does awesome. And that's the thing you do for the rest of your life. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to go now. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And Unified Plugins offers tools to take your WordPress projects to the next level, helping you build beautiful websites, enhance functionality, and drive more conversions. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with somebody who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building with intention and creativity.